Let's talk about wide receiver John Ross unexpectedly retiring from the NFL just 4 days into training camp. Meanwhile, Justyn Ross continues to turn heads. Kadarius Toney surgery being successful, the tight ends having quite the day at practice, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? All right, first up, it was announced late this afternoon that wide receiver John Ross was placed on the reserve/retired list. And as you could probably surmise from the name of that list, it means that after only 4 days of Andy Reid's training camp in the hot Midwest humidity and him seeing Justyn Ross getting first team reps, that man said, screw this, I'm out of here. Seriously though, he did have an uphill battle to make the roster, as it was notably struggling early on in camp, and maybe he could see the writing on the wall and decided to call it quits, knowing he more than likely wasn't going to make the 53-man roster anyway. At least hopefully that's what it was and not an injury of any kind, though you would think if it was an injury that would have also been mentioned and he could have possibly been placed on IR. Either way, I'm sure we will hear more about it in some capacity during Andy Reid's next presser. For now though, it looks like that's all she wrote for the record holder of the fastest 40-yard dash. He ran a 4.22, and also the man who went 9th overall in the 2017 draft, just one pick before Patrick Mahomes. He just sadly couldn't catch on in the league despite his speed and is hanging up the cleats at the age of only 27 years old. And you guys got to let me know your thoughts on this unexpected retirement. Were you as surprised as I was? Let me know in the comments down below. Next up, day 4 of Chiefs training camp came and went, and it looks like the players not seen out at today's practice were as follows. You had defensive tackle Turk Wharton, who's still on the PUP list, rehabbing his ACL. Defensive tackle Chris Jones, who is still in contract negotiations with the team and holding out. Although he posted this on social media saying he's still working, so you know he's staying ready, and hopefully we see him here soon. Then there was linebacker Isaiah Moore, who is dealing with knee inflammation per the words of Andy Reid yesterday. Next was wide receiver Kadarius Toney. He had knee surgery and will be out for some time. Wide receiver John Ross, it was announced as an excused absence earlier, but now we all know he retired, I guess. And then Nick Bolton was sick. And with Nick Bolton out, that meant linebacker Drew Tranquill stepped in for him today wearing the green dot and will probably know all 3 linebacker positions when all is said and done. And I can't forget to mention he's a converted safety and can drop back effectively in coverage as well. So he's basically a Swiss Army knife for the Chiefs defense, one of the best free agency pickups all offseason long, in my opinion. And then some good news for Isaiah Pacheco, who is still wearing his no contact jersey, but caught his first pass today during 7-on-7s from Shane Buechele, which is a positive sign that he is slowly starting to ramp up as camp moves along. And I doubt we see him taking hits when the pads come on this Friday or anything crazy like that, but still, it's a good sign for Pacheco indeed. And get this, offensive coordinator Matt Nagy shared today that Pacheco has been upset that he's being held back from his reps because he always wants to go full throttle.
We were joking about it. I mean, he's so angry right now that he's not in here running reps in practice, so he's getting extra work. And this guy, man, he is going all the time, and you say to yourself, is it ever going to stop? Where you catch him one time where he doesn't have that mentality, and it's 24/7. So that's in his DNA. He's got that, and when you run with the football in your hands and you have that mentality, man, it's hard to stop.
And speaking of energy, Creed Humphrey said the O-line feeds off the energy of the running back room and vice versa, but Clyde, Pop, and McKinnon are all great guys to block for, and he is also excited about Deneric Prince as well. Nagy said Deneric Prince has had a great camp so far in the receiving game, but he's also excited to see how things look for Deneric when he puts the pads on this Friday and then sees what he can do between the tackles. Someone else who is excited for the pads to come on is actually the entire offensive line, with Creed saying the most excited lineman by far is
Trey Smith. He gets to hit people when he has pads on.
And that is no real surprise, considering Trey might be the nicest, but at the same time most violent man on the entire team. Creed then said the beautiful part about camp is that it builds mental toughness and makes you a better player, and he's glad to be playing alongside the new tackles in Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith, saying that they came in with the right mindset and are eager to learn and grow as a unit. And if you want to get your mind in the right place, you need to be drinking some of that HBTC coffee of Benchwarmer Brew, my coffee, a very smooth medium roast with origins of Mexico and Ethiopia and flavor notes of chocolate and citrus. It's a coffee that is sure to give you a victorious buzz, which is fitting considering all the Chiefs ever do is win. Anyway, link in description if you're interested, but back to camp, because Matt Nagy said it's been a lot of fun so far, with Andy Reid continuing to keep things fresh out there with new plays. And an interesting play seen out there today was Mahomes actually passing the ball directly over to Richie James, who then proceeded to throw a pass to MVS. And although it was a little short, it's a cool concept concept considering Richie is left-handed, which makes a throw from that side being pretty unexpected because of the rarity of left-handed passers. Richie was also a quarterback in high school and even had to step in as a quarterback in an emergency situation in college, so he's definitely got the ability to pull something off like that in a game. Matt Nagy said you could tell Richie has been in the league for a while and around other offenses. He has a good feel and timing in his route running, and he is excited to see him in action this preseason. And speaking of action, Richie is waiting for his video game console to come in so he can be about that action in Call of Duty.
What are you doing for fun then? Are you playing Madden? Like, what are you guys doing in the dorm for fun?
My game haven't came yet, but when it does, I'll be on Call of Duty. Don't worry about it.
Are you Xbox or PlayStation?
Come on now, PlayStation.
Last one.
Don't ever ask this man about an Xbox ever again. Oh shoot. On a more serious note though, Richie said the humidity here is the real deal and Andy Reid's camp is a brutal one, especially on the receivers as they run around so much, but he's starting to settle in and get more comfortable in the offense. The terminology is obviously different here, but it helped maybe 10%, per the words of Richie at least, that he was in Mike Kafka's offense with the Giants, and Kafka, if you didn't know, was a former coach of the Chiefs. He then said as he gets older, he's aiming to get more technical and improve in every little way he can. He feels like he's always progressing, and working with this wide receiver group has helped him to elevate his game because everybody out there has that dog mentality. And speaking of dogs, that is exactly what Kadarius Toney thinks Justyn Ross is, which I'll get to in a moment. But first, Toney shared a post today about his surgery, sharing a photo of him in the hospital, as well as one of him celebrating the Super Bowl win, which I kind of took to mean this game has the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. But he said that surgery went well and I'll be back like I never left. And Matt Nagy said the injury to KT is certainly unfortunate, with some rapport and timing with Patrick Mahomes being the biggest thing he's missing right now. However, he's got half a season under his belt as well as OTAs, and so the focus is to get him healthy and then locked and loaded back into the offense. Anyway, while we wish the best for KT in his recovery, Toney gave some high praise today to Justyn Ross himself, simply putting a dog emoji in response to this really nice one-handed catch Justyn made right over the head of Trent McDuffie. I mean, that was pretty impressive and definitely got Chiefs Kingdom attention all over social media. And the more I watch this play, the more I see. I mean, obviously it was a great throw by Mahomes and nice awareness by Ross to come down with that ball. But outside of that, it looks like Deneric Prince missed his block, not realizing Nazeeh Johnson was blitzing from the corner. And because of that, Nazeeh would have had an easy sack. But hey, training camp, this is what it's about. Going through the growing pains and learning so the new guys can start working out the kinks. And speaking of Nazeeh, he could be seen out there working with the first team defense for the second day in a row. And I believe it was alongside Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed. Nazeeh is also someone that got some high praise from special teams coordinator Dave Tobe, who said that he was one of the best gunners in the entire NFL by the end of last season and will be one of their go-to gunners this season as well. And so far, that's what it's looking like. I mean, pads aren't on, so take that for what you will. But Pete Sweeney noted that during a special teams punt period, cornerbacks Nazeeh Johnson and Joshua Williams were the first gunners to go, followed by wide receiver Justin Watson and cornerback DiCaprio Bootle. And it looks like wide receiver Richie James was the first punt returner, followed by wide receiver ISM, Amir Smith-Marset. It's also worth noting that wide receiver Justyn Ross could be seen out there practicing as a gunner and downing this punt that Remigio, I guess, was going to let bounce. Not entirely sure, but it's a great sign for Justyn Ross, as he may need to find a way to contribute on special teams, even if it's just a little bit, to better his chances of making the 53-man roster. Honestly, though, with Toney injured and John Ross struggling to catch on and therefore retiring, I really think there is a better chance of Ross making this roster, especially if the Chiefs decide to roll with 7 wide receivers and keep Kadarius Toney on the roster so they don't have to place him on the reserve/pup list. That is if they think he can come back sooner than week 4, but there's plenty of time to process through that as camp continues and preseason gets here. Anyway, Matt Nagy himself complimented Justyn, saying he's a bigger bodied guy but really excels at route running. He's still learning his timing with Pat since he sat out last year, but he's mentally there and locked in, and Nagy anticipates immense growth for Justyn in a good way. And then sticking with receivers, MVS had a nice catch in the middle of the field from Mahomes, and while I can't find a video, it was reported that Justin Watson made a great diving catch during 11s, the first I've really heard from him since camp started. And it was mentioned that Rashee Rice himself had another solid day. Nate Taylor of The Athletic even said this: "Gotta say, at this point, Rashee Rice looks the part. And while I realize the pads haven't come on yet and you can't jump to conclusions, it's been an impressive showing from Rice thus far." Nagy seems happy with Rice's progress as well, saying that he's been drinking from a fire hydrant and learning all he can, but came into camp in phenomenal shape and every day has improved, which is exciting for the coaching staff because the sky is the roof with his talent. That is what Nagy said. And speaking of the sky, that made me think of this play by Skyy Moore, who extended to catch this pass from Mahomes, which was honestly a great throw, but an even more impressive catch. And if we see more like that from Skyy, you like that pun, that hopefully means good things will follow for him this season. Fingers crossed. I will say though, why in the heck was George Karlaftis in coverage against Skyy on that play? That is never going to work, Spags, so please quit doing that.
Stop it. Get some help.
Speaking of Karlaftis, he spoke with the media as well today and said the defensive line is a great mix of young guys, new guys, and veterans. And with Chris Jones not there at the moment, they've been filling in the void as best they can collectively and trying to make the most of it. He spent the offseason trying to improve in every way possible as he goes into year 2. And he even spent time training with Chiefs legend Tamba Hali. And when asked what he took away most from training with him, George said this.
Mamma mia. I mean, Tamba taught me a lot. From a mental perspective, physical perspective, pass rushing, run stopping, the mentality, just a lot, man. I'm grateful for him. He's been a great friend, a great mentor, and always looking forward to working with him.
I mean, I have absolutely zero issues with George training with somebody as great as Tamba. In fact, I think it's pretty freaking awesome. George said things really started to click for him last year after the bye week, and he's really ready to build onto that heading into year 2. And I actually want to pause here for a moment to share with you how well George actually did perform in the back half of last season, because it was a very high level that somewhat went under the radar. I mean, just look at this. Jason Anderson from 810 Sports Radio tweeted this out a while ago saying that week 12 through 18, Karlaftis had 5.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, and 15 tackles, which made him one of only 7 players in the NFL racking up those numbers in the final 7 weeks. And those players were George Karlaftis, of course, then Chris Jones, Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, Cam Hayward, Josh Sweat, and J.J. Watt. And if that doesn't get you excited for Karlaftis in year 2, I'm not honestly sure what will. I'm also excited for the tight end room this season, with several of them getting complimented today. Travis Kelce could be seen catching this pass here from Mahomes and then proceeding to basically tell Brian Cook to bring it on. He also caught an impressive one-handed grab that I don't believe was on film, but reportedly made it look easy. Jody Fortson had a nice catch here down the sideline, and he showed some elusive shiftiness to work his way into the end zone. And then Matt Nagy gave some high praise to tight end Matt Bushman, saying he had a great OTAs, doesn't drop the football, and is always at the right place at the right time. And Bushman is definitely someone to watch as a sleeper candidate who could fight his way onto the roster as tight end 4, but he will have to beat out the veteran Blake Bell in order to get there. And that's why I can't wait for the pads to come on and preseason to get here so we can see the 53-man roster projection start to take better shape. And be sure of this, whatever does happen, I will be here to keep you all updated every step of the way. So until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?